2 is 3.6. Polynomial and rational inequalities. I'm hoping to finish this, and I'm hoping to go back to some applications. I need to show you some applications from rational functions. Okay, I'm going to create an inequality, and I would like you to identify it and tell me what it is. No, this is so much easier than what we've done so far. You'll see, so much easier.
To get the degree, we have to solve the.
True, but I don't need it. You don't need to expend anything. It's nice because it's factored already. Okay, so first of all, what type of inequality is this? Is it linear? Is it absolute value? Is it
Quadratic.
So what is the degree on the left?
1. The degree?
Yes, the degree on the left. 4. Indeed. X times x times x times x is x to the 4th, right? Degree 4. So then what type of inequality will this be? Exactly. It's a polynomial degree 4. I'm not going to expend it. I needed it like this. So this is much easier than if I was given a 4th degree polynomial and I had to factor it. It's already factored for us. Perfect. We're going to use this chart for solving it. We're asked to solve a polynomial inequality. When I'm asked to solve a polynomial inequality or any inequality, I'm really asked what? Find x that does what? Does what? No. Exactly. Exactly. So find x that makes the left-hand side less than or equal to 0. Agreed? Perfect. So how many factors do I see in this problem? Of course, you already told me degree 4, so it had, 4 factors. Good. So this is the chart that I recommend. The first row is always the variable in the problem. And the variable in the problem can be anywhere between negative infinity and infinity. Please dictate the first factor in our inequality. Factor in our inequality. The first factor. Thank you. Please dictate the second factor. Please dictate the third factor. Please dictate the next factor. And now, please tell me, am I interested in x? Am I interested in the first factor, I mean x? Am I interested in the second factor, which is negative x plus 2, x minus 5, x minus 3? Or actually, I'm interested in what? I'm interested in? I'm interested in the whole thing, exactly. I'm interested in the product, and of course, because I ran out of room, I don't have room to write the whole thing, so I'm going to say just the product. The product being this. This is my product. I'm not interested per se in any of the little pieces. I'm interested in the whole thing. So this will give me the result that I need, but I'm not there yet. So I put each factor has its own row, and at the very top I have to have the variable because I'm going to put some numbers in there. Good. Please tell me, where is x0? I need the x-intercepts for each and every one factor. Where is x0? At at 0. Where is this factor 0? Set it equal to 0. Don't look at me. Just write it down. Negative x plus 2 equals, it's at 2. Very good. Okay, where is this factor 0? I agree. And finally, where is this factor 0? Do you all agree with these numbers? Now, please give them to me in the appropriate ascending order.
Ascending would be negative.
-3. Oh, -0. 2. 5.
Okay, so let's summarize so far. We created the chart. At the very top, I need room to put values in. And then I have a row for each factor. The very last row is what I'm interested in, the whole thing. Good. So now in the row for x, there is a 0. It crosses the x-axis somewhere. Under which number it crosses the x-axis? Thank you. Negative x plus 2 crosses the x-axis under which number? X minus 5 crosses the x-axis under which number? And x plus 3 crosses the x-axis or is 0 under which number? I would like you to tell me the product of these 4 factors. What is its value when x is negative 3? Very good. Because one factor is 0, the whole thing is 0. Under 0, what is the product, the value of the product at x equals 0? Very good. For the same reason, if one of the factors of the 4 factors is 0, the whole thing is 0. Are you with me? Everything okay? Is that clear? Okay, when x is 2. And when x is 5? Do we understand why? If any of the 4 factors is 0, the whole product is 0. So if you plug in negative 3, this will be 0. Number times 0. So then the whole thing is 0. So if you plug in 0, 0, number, but 0 times any number will be 0. Better? Are we in agreement?
Right.
Everyone?
So like 0
Times 3 numbers, it's going to be 0. Is that okay, everyone? Okay. Now I would like you to tell me this. What is the end behavior of something like this? Does it look, it's a line. They're all lines, right? They're all linear functions. Does it look like this or does it look like this? Number 1 or number 2? So what is the end behavior then? Well, you cannot say positive. You cannot say positive. Negative to? Next one. Is it number 1 or is it number 2?
2.
It's number 2 because it has a negative leading coefficient. So what is the end behavior for number 2?
Negative infinity.
X minus 5. Is it number 1 or is it number 2? Thank you. For x plus 3. Yes, because it's a positive leading coefficient. It has to look like this, right? We know that from polynomials, right? Are we in agreement with these, with the signs of these 4 factors? Yes?
Yeah.
When it's positive leading coefficient? When it's negative leading coefficient? Right? Okay, good. How many sub-intervals I see here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Agreed? On the first subinterval, the first one is negative, the second one is positive, the third one is negative, the fourth one is positive. What is the sign of the product? Yes, because there are 3 negatives. Awesome. Well done. First factor negative, second factor positive, then negative, and then positive. What is the sign of the product? Awesome. Positive, positive, negative, positive. What is the sign of the product? Positive, negative, negative, positive. What is the sign of the product? Positive times negative times positive times negative. What is the sign of the product? We agreed? Yes? Now, finally, I'm asking myself, what do I want? Which sign is less than or equal to 0? Negative. So is this product, which is on this line, and I don't care about the rest. The rest doesn't mean anything to me anymore. Is this product ever negative? It's negative on this subinterval, it's negative on this subinterval, and negative on this subinterval. But now I have to match it with x, because I want x. So it's negative here for which x? Between and negative 3. It's also negative for this interval. For which x? Very good. And it's also negative here for which x? That's it. And that's the answer. How do I write it? X in the interval where the product is negative. Since 0 is accepted, I'm going to put a bracket. Union. Very good. Union. In other words, what does this say? If you pick x here or here or here, the product will be definitely negative. But if you make the mistake of picking between negative 3 and 0 and 2 and 5, what will happen to the product? It will be positive. But I don't care for that because the inequality says negative. Less than or equal to. Any questions? Any questions? Sure. So let's do this. Yes. Yes.
Is it the same thing as the 7 steps in the converse?
Much easier. We didn't graph anything. We didn't have to find domain. We didn't have to find x, y-intercepts. We didn't have to find behavior near asymptotes or anything. No, it's much easier.
This one's much easier.
Yeah. It's just a chart in which you put some signs and establish what you need. I think it is much easier. You prefer the graph?
No, because I don't know, maybe it's the signs that is giving a problem, I don't know.
But this was just one example. I don't expect everyone to understand it from one example.
Because from the canvas, if I see the question, if I'm able to know, okay, after this, I'll be able to get it from the question directly.
But this was just one example. Let's look at another example and see how you feel after the second one. Because when we graphed the first function, rational function, or even polynomial, it took us 10 minutes. And then the next was 2 minutes, and the next was 2 minutes, and the next was 1 minute.
I'm sorry, ma'am. In the my maths lab, it's when if I graph the equation, I always draw a number line.
Use any method you like. The problem with that method is you will not know where to put a bracket and when to put a parenthesis. You have to be very careful with that method. I accept it.
So let's look at the signs of equals to a less than or equals to.
So this, you
less
cannot
than.
do that for separately. You have to study the sign of each, but you can find the points and then plug in. You can choose a number between those two values and plug it in. I think it would be much longer, and you may not identify correctly the bracket and the parenthesis, but it's a good method. I have nothing against it. If you see the two more examples of this, then choose which method you want to apply.
My question is, don't want to know, is it the same thing, this one with the the same
Exactly.
thing as the 7 steps stuff on the maths lab? You know, in the question, they will just ask, solve this method using the 7 steps.
But that's
No,
for
that's
graphing the
Do you
function.
understand?
I know what you're saying. That's an asymptote question.
That's for
Yes,
graphing.
asymptote,
That's for
yes.
graphing. This is not for solving inequality. Here we're solving an inequality. The 7 steps, basically they're 10, but they show 7. Those are for graphing a rational function, not for this. Okay? So let's look at the next example and see how you feel after the second one, okay? Okay. Now, I want to write a note here saying this. The chart that we just completed can be used if two conditions are fulfilled, 1 and 2. 0 on one side. See the 0 on one side? If I don't have 0, I cannot use the chart. One side has to have 0. The second condition is the other side of the inequality, of course, must be a product or a ratio of factors. So this one is 0 on one side. Is this a product of factors? Yes, that's why we were able to use the chart. Otherwise, we cannot. The chart will not work. Okay, so I'm going to make one up. Let's say negative x plus 2 divided by x minus 3 and greater than or equal to 0. Is this an inequality? What type? Very good. Awesome. Thank you. Is this inequality that is rational? Awesome. Is this chart ready?
Yeah.
Why?
So the 0 is
I have 0 on one side, and the second condition is the left-hand side is a product or a ratio of how many factors?
3.
Good. Good. So please dictate how I start the chart. X is the variable in the problem, and it goes from negative infinity to infinity. Because here I have to put the numbers. If I don't have this, I will not put the numbers. Good. Well, what is the next factor? The next factor is awesome. The next factor is and you know me, I always run out of room, so what will I write here? In this case, it's a ratio. Because it has a fraction. But what I really mean is the whole thing, right? The whole thing is there on the last row. Good. So which number will you give me to put in the chart for this factor? 0. Which number will you give me to put in the chart for this factor? And which one for this factor? I need them in the correct order from negative infinity to infinity. Good? Good. What will be my next step then? Yes. So for negative x, where do I put its 0? Under 0. For x plus 2, where do I put its 0? Under negative 2. For x minus 3, where do I put its 0? Good. Now let's analyze what happens here. Without this, I cannot continue. When x is negative 2, I need a number or something here, here, and here. I'm here with negative 2. Look at the rational expression, plug in negative 2, and tell me what you get.
0.
Of course, because the top is 0. Very good. Now please plug in 0 and tell me what you get when you plug in 0. Yes, because the top is 0. Perfect. Now let's plug in 3 and tell me what you get. I didn't hear.
I thought 0 because the top is 0, right?
Which one? For which one?
I thought you said
Negative 2 is here at the top. That's why the fraction is 0. 0 is here at the top, so then the fraction is 0. Now we're talking about 3, which is 3 everywhere and 3 here. Can anyone explain, other than Jason, why this expression is undefined at 3?
0 is about
0 in the denominator. It's a rational function. It's not polynomial, right? So it's undefined at 3. Good. Can anyone give us the signs for negative x? From what we studied so far. Very good. Very good. Can anyone give us the signs for x plus 2? When you say positive to negative, you mean this, which is a negative slope.
positive.
Yes, it's a positive slope, so it has to be negative to positive. That's why I put these in the correct order, right? They have to be in descending order so I can identify correctly the slope. Okay, can anyone, yes?
So, x plus 2, it's negative 2, and you're saying the negative with the positive is negative?
Oh, I didn't get to that. We are not at the ratio yet.
No, I'm talking about you had x2, right there, yeah.
Because if you went to like negatives, 3 plus 2 would be negative 1. So it's going to be negative on every side.
Oh, yeah.
Problem solved?
Yeah.
Okay. Can anyone give us the behavior for x minus 3? Very good. Do we understand this? It's okay if you say I don't.
I'm catching it, but go over it again.
So now, how many subintervals we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. I need a sign for each of them. Subinterval 1, second subinterval, third subinterval, fourth subinterval. This is an interval, subinterval, 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 subinterval. A portion of the real line. This is the first portion of the real line, second one, third one, fourth one. So, on the first one, I need the sign. If I multiply or divide, it doesn't matter. It's positive. 2 negatives and 1 positive, right? Don't count the positives. They will not change anything. Don't waste your time. Second subinterval, I have 1 negative. What is the sign? Third subinterval, I have 2 negatives. Very good. And the last subinterval, I have 1 negative. Agreed? Okay. Now I'm looking here. What is greater than or equal to 0? Which sign am I after for the ratio? I don't care for this, this, and this. They're gone. They were just tools to determine this. This is what I'm interested in, the whole thing. So now the question is, what do I pick? What sign am I looking for? I'm looking for x that makes this greater than or equal to 0. Which sign? Positive. So let's look. Is the whole thing ever positive? Damon, go ahead.
So how if you have two positives, two negatives, you come out two positives, you got a negative.
When I multiply a negative times a negative, I get a positive. Do not look at the positives. Positives will not change the sign.
Don't look at the positive.
Don't count positives. They don't mean anything. Better? So we want positive. Is this ratio ever positive? On how many subintervals is the ratio positive? On 2 subintervals. Now the moment of truth. So first subinterval and the third subinterval. I have to choose x values that make the ratio positive. Can anyone dictate the solution? Yes? X in the interval negative infinity to, it's positive here. If you say 3, then you're also including the negative. So negative infinity to negative 2, closed, union, 0, comma, very good. Which symbol at 3? But it's undefined.
So brackets.
I cannot use a bracket if it's undefined. This is the bracket. I have to use a parenthesis. Do we understand the solution? Better? Is the second example better? Which part is not clear? You mean the signs?
Yeah.
Okay, between negative infinity and 0, if I plug in negative 5 here, what do you get? Plug in negative 5. Between negative infinity and 0, plug in negative 5. Do you get a positive number? Negative 5 times negative 1 is positive. Negative 5 times negative 1 is positive. I'm saying pick a number. Pick a number between negative infinity and 0.
Okay.
Any number. Pick a number.
Negative
1. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive. Pick a number between 0 and infinity. On the other side of it's 0. With minus in front. For this one, between negative infinity and it's 0, plug in a number. Give me a number between negative infinity and negative 2. Negative 1 is here, not here. Negative 500. Is negative 500 here? Good. Negative 500 plus 2. Pick another number between negative 2 and infinity. 10,000. 10,000 plus 2. And we repeat for all of them. And then we multiply them or divide them. If this is positive and this is negative and this is negative, the whole thing is positive. If this is positive and this is positive, but this is negative, the whole thing is negative. If this is negative and this is positive and this is negative, the whole thing is positive. If this is negative and this is positive and this is positive, the whole thing is negative. And now only positive numbers I'm interested in. Only x values that make the ratio greater than or equal to 0. Better? Everyone? Better? Okay. Do you think we need another example, or can I look at a word problem?
One more time.
I'm sorry?
One more time. One more time.
Oh, another, this one? Okay. I still have to finish and I still have to give you the classwork. Okay, so x, negative x minus 1, x plus 2, less than or equal to 0. How many factors we have here? Good. So I start the chart from negative infinity to infinity. The first factor, second factor, next factor. Last thing that I'm interested in. Do you find that this is easier than graphing?
Yeah.
You agree?
Yeah.
Good. So this is x. Now I have room for the whole thing, which I did not have in the previous examples. Which numbers go in the chart?
That's not going to be the product. But the ratio.
I have room. I have room so I can write the whole thing. If you don't want to write this, you just write the product. By the product, you mean this whole thing. Good. So what value will I put in for x?
0.
What value will I put in for negative x minus 1? No? Yes? And what value will I put in for this? Good. So now in order from left to right. Awesome. Give me a 0 for x. Under which number? Give me a 0 for negative x minus 1. Awesome. Give me a 0 for x plus 2. Tell me what happens in these three situations with the product. Indeed, because this is not a rational inequality, but a polynomial inequality. Please give me the signs for the sequence of signs for x. Very good. Sequence of signs for negative x minus 1. Very good. And the sequence of signs for x plus 2. Very good. First subinterval. Second subinterval. Third subinterval. Last subinterval. What do I want? Which sign will I pick for this to happen?
Negative.
Yes, I have to pick negative. So then x in the interval.
-2.
Now, this one took us less than a minute. The first one takes a long time. The second one takes some time. And the next one should take 1 minute. Is this clear? And we are basically here, it's up to you, you can plug in numbers, of course. But this is what I'm doing here is I'm using the end behavior from polynomials. And they're all linear. If it's a positive slope, negative to positive. If it's a negative slope, positive to negative. And there are only two options. Is this better? Perfect. I'd like to look at a word problem from rational functions. Problem 102 on page 428. We are given a function. I'm going to copy the function. And then I'm going to ask you a few questions about it. Let's see what it means first. A drug is injected into a patient, and the concentration of the drug in the bloodstream is monitored. In order for mathematicians, patients, and doctors to come up with this, a lot of effort was put in. a lot of people were tested, right? And the concentration of in the bloodstream of a particular medicine was determined. They plotted all those points for each and every patient, many times possibly. And they said, okay, this is the best function that fits the model. It's a lot of time and effort put in this, and a lot of people were involved in determining this. It's not easy at all. Okay, so the drug's concentration C of T, this is the concentration in milligrams per liter. After T hours, so T is in hours, so it's time in hours. They want us to graph this function using the graphing calculator, which we can do. There is a picture of the graph, but I would like to graph it with you. But I have a couple of questions before we even graph it. First question for you is the type. Of course, what function is and what type. Number 2, I want to find vertical asymptotes. Number 3, I would like to find horizontal asymptote. Before we do anything, before we read the problem even. So what type of function is this? Before that, first of all, what kind of function I should? Rational. We know that it has a ratio and it has the variable in the denominator. Awesome, thank you. Number 2, is it type 1, type 2, or type 3? Say it again. Why is it type 2? The bottom is more powerful than the top. Very good. So this is indeed type 2. I'm going to jump here and then come back to the VA. For all type 2 functions, do they have a horizontal asymptote or slant? No function has both. Horizontal indeed, has a horizontal. Type 2. Type 2 has a horizontal. Which one? All type 2 have what type of horizontal asymptote? Say it again. Thank you. Nami's tired of me here saying it so many times. Good. So I'm really hoping that this is true, because once we inject the patient with a medicine, what do we expect to happen eventually with the concentration of the medicine in his or her bloodstream? Exactly. I definitely hope so. Right? Perfect. Now, what about the vertical asymptote? Let's look at this function. How do we determine the vertical asymptotes which are connected to the domain of the function? T squared plus 1 equals?
0.
Awesome. T squared plus 1 equals 0. How many solutions will I get? 2, because it's quadratic. Awesome. Now let's try to find them. Say it again. T squared equals? Is that possible? T squared plus 1 equals 0. So T squared equals? Is that possible? So what do you conclude about VAs for this function? None. None. Absolutely none. Remember also T is time in hours. Okay, perfect. Let's graph the function with a graphing calculator. So in y equals, and we have 5t. I don't have t, I have x in the calculator. Oops, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put it in. Okay, in parentheses, 5x close. Although the top is only one term, I still want to make sure that parentheses are on the denominator, x squared plus 1. Close. Do I have to put anything else? No, because the horizontal asymptote is 0. Now let's think about the viewing window. I don't care about negative time. Doesn't mean anything. I don't care about negative concentration. If I give a patient a medicine He cannot have -5 milligrams per liter in the bloodstream, right? So I don't care about the negative side of the x-axis. I don't care about the negative side of the y-axis. So in the viewing window, I'm going to say 0. I don't know how many hours. I'm going to put 20 hours with a scale of 5. Y minimum, 0. Y maximum, I'm not sure. I don't know, so I'm going to put 10 for now. And with a scale of 1, it's good. So I'm going to graph. So the graph starts at 0, because when t is 0, the concentration is 0. Comes to a maximum. And then, as we expected, does what? Gets closer and closer to 0, as we knew, because the function has to approach the horizontal asymptote. Now let's look at the questions. Use the graph to obtain a reasonable estimate of the drug's concentration after 3 hours. So I used 20, I think, with a scale of 5. So 3 would be somewhere here. And I think I used 10 here with a scale of 1. Did I use 10? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So 5, 5, 5, and 5. I think I used 20 here.
I think about 1.5.
Say it again.
So I got about 1.5.
Very good. So I'm going to write question number 4. C of 3, 1.5 milligrams per liter. Good. Next question. Say it again.
What would you write?
C of 3 equals 1.5
1.5.
milligrams.
Use the functions equation displayed in the voice balloon, blah, 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 to find the same thing. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to plug it in. Second and table, and plug in 3, and see if Harry was correct. Yes, he was. Indeed, 1.5. Next question. Use the functions equation to find the horizontal asymptote for the graph. Describe what this means about the drug's concentration in the patient's bloodstream as time increases. So what is the horizontal asymptote?
It's 5.
The horizontal asymptote is 0, because we expect, as we normally would, right, that the concentration of the medicine in somebody's bloodstream will do what? Will go back to 0. That's it. So what I would like to do on Tuesday, and don't forget we start early,